What advice would you give to your younger self?
The advice I would give to my younger self would be to be okay showing up in all the different parts of who you are,
Mm.
right? So when I started my career, I thought I had to choose. Okay, here's professional Nicole. And it didn't allow me the opportunity to bring all aspects of who I am: the mother, the wife, the daughter, the friend, the hugger. I'm a big hugger. I thought that I needed to be one of those at a time. And the moment I realized that I could be all of those things, that they actually is space for those things to exist together, it's a burden that's lifted. And so I would say to my younger self, feel compelled or give yourself the freedom to lift that burden sooner and earlier than I did in my own life and career.
Hi, I'm Ros Gold-Onwude, and this is Risk and Reward. Today, I'm talking with one of the highest ranking Black women in finance, Nicole Pullen Ross. In her rise to the exclusive role of partner at Goldman Sachs, she shares she found her stride once she leaned in on being herself. Instead of trying to hide identities that marked her as different, she made them her strengths. So you had to have the courage to take that jump into the things you cared about.
Yep, that's right.
What were the things in the back of your head that were giving you doubts, maybe? What were the risks maybe you were thinking you had to take?
I had my first exposure to Wall Street as a summer analyst. And when you walk into a room and there are few people, if any, who look like you, that plants a seed of doubt. And so we'll often hear people say, you can't be what you can't see.
Mhm.
And I had limited examples in finance, and more specifically within the asset management space, of senior people who look like me, and senior women were almost unheard of. The leap for me was first to decide I wanted to be in the investment management space, and to make the decision to go back to business school to best equip myself to be as prepared as possible.
You often hear about high-ranking minorities, minority women, talk about the duality of their professional and kind of personal lives, either through code switching, how they talk, or even imposter syndrome. Did any of that factor in for you?
I'm a Black person, I'm a woman, I'm from the South, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter. I had to figure out how all of those things could fit together. And for me, having the opportunity to be all of those things and to show up in a way that was authentic was really important for me to be able to accomplish. And once I figured out how to bring my authentic self, once I figured out the importance of serving clients, then I was able to have the sort of balance, the lifted weight, if you will, of trying to fit into a space where a lot of people didn't look like me.
Let's take it back just a step
Okay.
to college. You
Yeah,
went to Hampton University.
I did.
Why bet on an HBCU?
It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I have been passionate about HBCUs ever since I stepped foot on a campus. I think attending an HBCU gives a level of confidence to people who are going into rooms where that confidence is a currency that is so valued that it allows you to propel your career and have the confidence to do things that may intimidate others. And it's been a great year for HBCUs. I talked to many of the presidents, and I'm so excited that they are having the opportunity to share with more people in this country how important the HBCU network is and the leaders that are the result of HBCU education and experience.
Can you talk about how possible this might have seemed as a little girl, or maybe even further, like at the early stages as you were rising in your career?
Yeah, it's a great question because I, as I think about my own career path, as I talk to people and try to help them chart their own path, I often ask myself, what sort of things helped guide my path. And I certainly didn't anticipate the opportunity to have a seat at the table like this. But I have to say, one of the things that's special about an organization like Goldman is that it's very entrepreneurial. And part of the success that I've had and the reason I chose this career path is because I did believe that there was an opportunity to have success without a ceiling.
You
And that's,
believed it. You believed this was possible.
I believed that I never thought, I didn't articulate very early on that I want to be a partner at Goldman Sachs because it wasn't an attainable thing. There were no Black partners within my business. And so I didn't start to aspire to achieve that until I was much later in my career. And at that point, you start to be the only and the first, and you look around and first find the responsibility that, okay, I don't want to be the only, I don't want to be the first. Like, who can I bring along into this room? Who can I bring along into this conversation, which has always been important to me and something that I feel is my responsibility and my commitment. And that's part of the responsibility of being at the table, right? Being there in itself isn't the reward. Being there and bringing others along is really what it's all about. And it's how we all benefit. It's how the firm benefits. It's how our clients benefit. It's how we change communities. I should say, have a sticky on my window that said partner for about 2 years. So I was very focused, to be clear, at some point.
You gotta claim it. What have been your experiences with Black female mentorship, if any?
I'm so fortunate in this way. And while there may not be many Black female leaders, specifically in management, I have found the few that there are. And there's one woman in particular who I saw at a gala maybe 15 years ago. And she was where I wanted to be. And I immediately went up, introduced myself, and she's been a mentor since that random moment. And I think what I have found is the willingness for the small group of Black women leaders to be resources and partners to one another in this journey is incredible. It's a small group within Goldman.
With every step Nicole Pullen Ross takes, she opens up space for the next Black woman following behind her at the most exclusive and prestigious levels of finance at Goldman Sachs. Much like the elite athletes and entertainers who are her clients, Nicole is committed to achieving excellence at every single one of the business operations in which she oversees. As the head of New York Private Wealth Business Management and Sports and Entertainment business as well, what are your responsibilities? What do you do?
Our responsibility is to provide advice to some of the most successful individuals and institutions around the world. And that advice includes everything that they care about. The root of that advice, I should say, is around investment advice, wealth advice. The people with whom we work have accomplished extraordinary events in their lives. They are investors, they're business leaders, they are entrepreneurs, philanthropists. And the partnership that we provide them allows them the opportunity to do all of those things with a plan in mind, executed in partnership with Goldman, really leveraging all of the firm's resources and relationships to help meet their goals.
Specifically for your athlete clientele, just looking strategically for like the things you would highlight for these clients around avoiding fraud or risk management.
I obsess about risk management because it is the one aspect of the story or the puzzle that makes everything else fall apart if you don't get it right. And so one of the reasons that we wanted to be more active in this space in terms of the sports and entertainment industry is because I saw that there were so many things that we were learning. There was so much experience that we were gathering over decades of working with clients. And I believe that there was a gap between what we were learning and what we were seeing some folks experience within the sports and entertainment space. To your point, you asked about fraud. There was a consultant firm that did a report that quoted $500 million in fraud between the years of 2004 and 2017 in athletes alone. And
Wow.
so when you think about the ramifications of that level of fraud, it was a gap that we wanted to fill. And so when we think about risk management with our clients who are athletes, it's really about having a long-term view and making the decisions in the near term to help influence that long-term plan.
What do you think would be important to highlight to these athlete clients who often are making big chunks of money in short spurts, maybe short periods of time, and then have to figure out the rest?
There's several things that we see that we try to help influence. One of the first mistakes we see is the view that I just want to keep it all in cash. I'm going to put it under the mattress, take no risk. It will all be there over the course of my life. That strategy might work if you're 65 or 70, which is, when most people earn their wealth, and therefore they have a very short amount of time where those assets need to work for them and for their family. If you're 27 or 30 and you need that wealth to last you for 40 or 50 years, it's a very different decision. And so the ability to have growth in the portfolio is really important. For some clients, it means having an investment strategy that has more income generation. For some clients, it means a real estate portfolio. It depends on the client and their goals and their other obligations, but we try to help them understand and visualize what life looks like after that career. Mm-hmm. And then the last element I would say is really calibrating the risk in the portfolio and understanding how to maximize that return. And there are lots of pieces of the puzzle that come into play. But for us, it's really making sure that we are taking into consideration all of those aspects and really having a very quantifiable goal that we're working towards. That doesn't just include investments, but includes all the other things that our clients care about from a philanthropic perspective. Starting a school, having a foundation, those sort of things. We want to help think through all aspects of that.
You've also dabbled in my space, I heard. So I know that you have interviewed tennis star Coco Gauff, basketball player Andre Iguodala. What did you learn in your time with those athletes in particular that are savvy and want to build?
I like that you called it dabble because you're certainly the expert, but it must be so exciting for you to get to learn from your guests all the time. I find that to be the biggest reward. And Coco and Andre are great examples. So they're both extraordinary, right? You've got Coco, who at 16 years old is the youngest player in the top 100 in tennis.
It's kind of cool for my first Wimbledon to be on that court. But when that moment reached, I definitely was in shock. I think it was my fourth match point I ended up winning it on.
She's growing up under the microscope of being a 16-year-old with all of these people cheering from the sidelines for her and for what she can accomplish. And she's doing this with a level of poise and grace that is beyond her years. And then you have Andre, who maybe he was in the draft, I think, the year that Coco was born.
Over the past 5 years, you've played 500 games, and no one else is at 400. Yeah. And you forget to enjoy your accomplishments.
So you might not like that I pointed out.
You didn't have to age him like that. You didn't have to age him like that.
I mean, he's going to kill me for that. But the point is, how remarkable is it to have a career that is that successful in any industry and that long in any industry? And the great thing about my conversation with Andre is that it was another opportunity to expose more people to the complexity and the scope of things that athletes are capable of. So the great thing about the conversations with both Coco and Andre is that it gives people more perspective, right? They're on their way to change the world in different ways. And I think they're changing perceptions as well along the way.
I feel like we're always asking about what are the negatives or what are the things we have to overcome as Black women in predominantly white male spaces, which, you know, do occur. But I'm also curious about what you might have felt have been the benefits of being Black and a woman in your field, and even specifically interacting with your clientele.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I have also flipped around like you did. In our business, we work with a very small number of people. And oftentimes when Goldman Sachs shows up and there's the logo on the business card, they're not expecting to see someone in a package like mine. And so sometimes I'll call early in my career, I'd call in and say, oh, there was the Black woman who came in. Oh, yes, the Black woman, because there's probably a short list of Black women who have gone to visit with our clients. So that's one way. And the other is to really embrace the uniqueness of my perspective.
I feel like authenticity is way more valued now, and that's a good trend. And I personally also can relate with, like, it's hard to win when you're trying to hide yourself or fit in, you know, like I think the best things have happened for me in life and career-wise and as a woman, and when I've bought into myself. So often we have conversations and hold panels asking high-achieving Black women how they overcame being Black in white male-dominated spaces. For me, it was actually refreshing to hear Nicole give a different spin on the topic and share how she viewed her unique identity and perspective and character as strengths that she could use to be successful with. What is it about your skill set that you are just simply so great at that has separated you in your career and field?
As soft as it sounds, I think it's listening. And the ability to listen really well helps you represent your client's interest in a way that's really differentiated. And it's not listening for what is said completely, but it's listening for what's not said, or the questions that are asked, or the reluctance in a response. All of those things, I think, have better equipped me to be an advocate for clients, to find the solutions to problems that they may not have been able to precisely articulate.
What is the ultimate reward that you feel you're grinding and building for when this is all said and done?
The ultimate reward is not about me as an individual. It is about the collective of individuals. It's about clients. It's about my family. It's about my colleagues. If I can have an impact that drives an outcome that is differentiated for all of them, then that is the reward. And if I can do all of those, then I will feel as though I've accomplished something. Some days I think I hit one of those more than the other, but the real reward is being able to feel success across all of those relationships that are so important.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you a virtual hug right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have to do this in person someday.
I would love it.